What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. And we are returning once again to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'm actually about halfway through now, so I'm getting there. And I've chosen a set of excerpts that I wanted to discuss once again from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But what I did this time, I think, is pretty cool. Some of these sections I actually fed into ChatGPT to give me a little bit more analysis about what the passages are saying. So I'll of course give my analysis, but I think it's actually pretty helpful to color in the context of what some of these passages are saying, or at least under the interpretation of what ChatGPT is pulling together from different resources. So hopefully that will give us some more insights into passages. Maybe I think some of them have are saying some interesting things. Some others maybe not. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into it and let's see what we can extract from this book. And by the way, if there are things that are I think in this book or any book that we read that are like, what are they talking about? I don't think it necessarily means the entire book is a wash. I think that we can still extract positive value and good things from these texts, even if not everything in the books resonate with us. Again, I think what only puts you in that box would be if you're going to say no. Well, I am now going to be placed in this box of being in this religion or that religion. Then you kind of have to you're forced into this position of buying into that into a text completely, which I don't think is beneficial really for anybody to do. I think we should. I don't see the problem with continuing to stay open minded and wanting to just keep learning, just like we do in life, just like we do with any pursuit, scientific endeavors, business endeavors, etc. Always be an open book, not say, okay, well, now I've gotten to this point and everything, I know everything. We're just gonna subscribe to this one particular faith and this one book, and that's it. So anyways, without further ado, I think I made that point multiple times on this channel, but without further ado, let's get into some of these really cool excerpts. All right. So this was pretty cool. This is a section from the Confession of Negativity. All right, this is a series of these different confessions meant to purify your soul. And I think when they say purify, what they mean, what the text means is let go, it feels like, so you can ascend and gain a greater state of awareness. So you can make it to whatever whatever the next level is, as opposed to going into the cyclic existence of rebirth. Okay, so it says, I acknowledge and remorsefully confess all of my negative obscurations and all of my habitual tendencies of body, speech, and mind, beginninglessly influenced by the three poisons, which are the accumulating causes for rebirth among the lower, states of suffering in cyclic existence. So I wonder if this, when it says acknowledge and remorsefully confess, is this to mean that you must confess, is kind of like the Christian notion of sins, and you must have remorse? Or is it saying that is it saying that the act of acknowledgement itself, as opposed to trying to run away from these negative obscurations or whatever it may be, like when you're trying to run away from it, you can't lighten your load and ascend as you need to? Or is there something, is it kind of like that confessional idea, I guess, of where you have to have some remorse, and only by having remorse then you can be liberated? I don't exactly know, but let me fill you in on what ChatGPT says. So first of all, that mention of the three poisons. What are the three poisons? This is super cool. It's ignorance, attachment, and aversion. So if we go back, it says beginningly influenced by the three poisons. So all of these negative things, I guess, are influenced by these three things: ignorance, attachment, and hatred, aversion. These are considered the root cause of karma and samsara, meaning the cycle of death and rebirth. The purpose of this section is purification before death and during the Bardo process. So the text is trying to prepare the consciousness to recognize the clear light, avoid panic, avoid being pulled by habitual karmic tendencies, and move toward liberation rather than unconscious rebirth. And again, is that simply by purification? Is that simply by awareness, a heightened awareness, a heightened enlightenment? Or is there some sort of atonement that has to happen? I don't think so, because it doesn't mention anything like that. It just mentions these confessions as a way to, I guess, like, move beyond these different issues that are caused from attachment, ignorance, and aversion. Okay, this was another really cool section. The quest of Buddhas. This really made me think of the concept of star seeds and or light workers. The idea of maybe people that have come to this planet or into this matrix to try and help others wake up. So it says, I beseech you, all teachers, infinite Buddhas without exception, to remain present and not to pass into nirvana, and to continue to enact deeds of extensive benefit for the sake of beings until the world's systems of cyclic existence have been emptied, till the matrix is basically emptied out. It's interesting. We were talking about this in the live stream on Friday, and I think some people were saying that, let's say you accept this idea that we're in some sort of a soul trap, or I heard the word soul trick, by the way, very cool to say it, because it's like you're speaking that into existence, that you're trapped. No, we're just tricked, but we're not trapped. I thought that was pretty powerful. But I think some people were saying, yeah, once this life is past, like I'm out, I'm gonna bounce. And we were talking about that idea, that saying, okay, well, but if that were, if that is how it is when you leave and you are in this place where you're able to leave, are you sure you would actually? Because, maybe once you're out there and you're in that position, maybe you once again say, no, I want to go back. Because why did you come here in the first place? If you are able to, if you are at that enlightened state of this like Buddha level, and you are able to recognize what's going on, you are able to escape. Well, you're probably able to escape before, if you're at this level of enlightenment. So there's probably a reason why you came here. And I was like, maybe these enlightened ones, these Buddhas are actually gonna come back, and they're gonna keep trying to help. So just an interesting conversation we were having. But that's really cool, right? Doesn't that remind you of that idea of star seeds? So it says the phrase "until the world systems of cyclic existence have been emptied" means until all beings trapped in samsara, right? In this trap or trick, the cycle of birth, death, rebirth, suffering, karma, ignorance, craving, have been liberated. So the purpose of the section is compassionate invocation. The practitioner is asking enlightened beings, light workers, to stay involved in the suffering world rather than simply resting in their own liberation. That's very interesting. This section I titled "Liberation Through Recognition." It's two parts. So we're gonna read this section. It's a little bit of a long section. That's why it's on 2 slides. Okay, it's very cool. Check this out. Each of the central and peripheral forms will be endowed with fearsome ornaments and attire, resounding with an immense space, vibrant with sounds, lights, and rays. The bodily demeanor of these wrathful deities. So this is what you're seeing as you're exiting the body, I believe, will be elegant, heroic, and terrifying. Their roar wild, murderous, and awesome, each blazing with compassion, right? Kind of weird to say blazing with compassion, but we're going to talk about that in a moment. We get into the ChatGPT interpretation. Wrath and fierce aversion, adorned by face markings of human ash, blood, and grease, dressed in skirts of moist hide and flayed tiger skin. Decorated with skull garlands and wreaths of snakes. Like, this just sounds terrifying. Resplendent in a blazing mass fire with which pounds with the cries of ha, ha, hum, fat, strike, slay. Reverberating like 1,000 peals of thunder, fully arrayed with hand emblems and multifarious faces. Displaying the arts of transformation, they will pulverize and rock the infinite trichiliocosm. I'm not sure what that word is. At that very moment, when the fierce sounds, lights, and rays dawn before us in terrifying manifestation, O you, the compassionate assembly of wrathful, blood-drinking deities, O beings of compassion, do not withhold your compassion at that time. I don't know. When I first read it, I don't know what I was kind of thinking, are they talking about you could call it the archons, the creators of the system, the ones that are trying to keep us tricked or trapped? And is that what they're talking about? Decorated with skulls, these, having this whatever bodily demeanor of these wrathful deities. Like, these are the people that we're being met with. And is it our goal to surpass or move past them and evade them? Well, this is what ChatGPT said. It says this section's purpose is liberation through recognition. If the deceased recognizes these terrifying forms as manifestations of awakened mind, so it's kind of from us, liberation is possible. If they react with fear, aversion, or confusion, they are pulled deeper into karmic vision and eventually towards rebirth. So the idea, I think, is what it's saying here with this interpretation, is that it's how you react to these entities, or maybe there are manifestations of the awakened mind. It's just sort of like a mirage type of thing, or maybe it is referring to them as a mirage simply because like we are like a trick again. We have the ability, we have the power to evade them and go past them, but if we let our minds play tricks on us and make us think that, oh, wait a minute, we're powerless in the face of these terrifying entities, then we get sucked back in. It could be referring to something along those lines as well. I'm not sure, but I thought it was interesting the way they describe this whole scene. Now, these next couple sections, there's a lot of talk of being led astray by past actions. That basically, and so I think what it's talking about is, I guess you could say, the idea of a karmic debt. However, it does not appear to me that the karmic debts need to be like balanced out in the sense of, okay, you've done X, Y, and Z. Now X, Y, and Z need to be done to you, or something like that. It feels like the past actions and all these negative things that we've done or experienced, they weigh us down, but the way to lighten our load, if you will, and get past them maybe seems to be more of acknowledgement, go through that confession process and awakening that way, as opposed to this idea of, with the life review, you've experienced all these things and now we need to, okay, so you did some bad things here, so we need to fix that in the next life. I don't know if that's what I'm picking up from what they're saying in this book. Okay. From beginningless time without end, I've roamed throughout cyclic existence, led astray by the momentum of my mistaken past actions and improper past behavior. I have mistaken the path and become lost on the path. I regret with powerful remorse and negative past actions I've committed of any kind. So again, it's this idea of regretting or having some sort of remorse. Drawn by the momentum of momentary yet violently resonant past acts, I've sunk into this ocean of suffering, the sea of cyclic existence. The fires of blazing hatred have unabatingly seared my mind. The dense darkness of delusion has blinded my discriminate awareness. Okay. So here's what chat said. Hold on. Let's just look at this one more time. Yeah. So again, it's just talking about the burden of these negative past actions. So it says the function of this section is to create remorse without despair. Okay, so it's not, and again, that's interesting because the despair part, like feeling negative emotions, would seem more of a balancing act, but I think it's not exactly saying that. Remorse, acknowledgement, but not exactly a karmic balancing per se. In Tibetan Buddhist practice, confession is not meant to produce guilt for its own sake. It's meant to weaken karmic patterns by bringing them into awareness, right? I forgot this even said this, but yeah, it's kind of what I was saying. Regretting them and turning the mind toward liberation. In the broader context of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, this matters because the Bardo experience is shaped by the mind's own habits. If hatred, fear, attachment, and delusion dominate the mind, the deceased may misread the visions of the Bardo, what we were talking about before, flee from liberating lights, chase karmic appearances, and move toward rebirth. Flee from liberating lights, which I would take to be something different than the bright white light, right? Talked about in the NDEs. I don't know, though. I mean, this is a little bit of speculation because they're not talking about two different lights here, but okay, now we're talking about being afflicted by past actions. Once again, the idea of past actions holding us back, holding us down. Beings such as I who are afflicted by past actions have been subject to misconceptions since beginningless of time. As a result, we have not achieved release from the turning states of cyclic existence. Indeed, beings such as I have assumed such a countless number of corporeal forms during countless births and countless aeons that if our flesh and bones were to be collected together, their accumulated mass would fill this world. And if our pus and blood were to be collected together, their accumulated mass would fill a vast ocean. Okay, what is it saying? It's saying we've had a ton of lives, of past lives, that this has been going on and on and on. We've, not just had 100 or 1,000, but maybe billions is what it sounds like it's saying. Billions or trillions or who knows. Interesting. I haven't really heard that before. I've never heard specific numbers being placed on how many incarnations we've had. I heard somebody talk once on Next Level Soul podcast, although I can't remember this guy, and he did not strike me as genuine at all. This was one of the interviews where I was starting to question some of the guests that have been on Next Level Soul podcast, by the way. But he was saying that he figured out that he's had 3,000 incarnations and that he just loves Earth so much that he just keeps coming back. I don't know. So I guess is that possible that it's in that other number? Yeah, for sure. I don't know, but yeah, this seems to be, unless this is it's like a hyperbolic statement, but it sounds like it's showing that it's much bigger than that, many more numbers than that. Maybe not for everybody, but for some. Okay, now we get into a very interesting section. Okay, and I wanted to show this one because it's just like a whole list of ways that you can tell if somebody's dying or other things that if they experience, it gives very specific timelines of when they will die. And I think this section is interesting. I even asked ChatGPT how accurate this stuff is in terms of these predictions. I just wanted to see what it says. And it says, like, yes, obviously some of these very specific predictions may not hold water, but there are some like general good things in here that we acknowledge today as signs that are indicative of impending death. But look, I want to just read this to you because it just gets super specific with predicting death, and I thought it was relevant to share just in terms of understanding what all is in this book. It says, resuming this process, focusing on the right eye. If the circles are absent from the lower part of the right eye, one should know that one may die after 10 days. Like, so bizarre, right? Yeah. Anyways, and then it says this indicates that one may die after 5 days. If they are absent from the upper part of the right eye, they may die after 5 days. If they are absent from the direction of the right ear, they may die after 3 days. And if they are absent from the direction of the right nostril, they should know that may die after 2 days, even if one is not sick. I don't know. It's a little out there. It just seems way too specific. I'd love to know if anybody else has any thoughts on these signs of death sections. But all right, so here's another part from signs of death. Furthermore, if one dreams of eating feces, I believe is what it's saying, unless faces is something different, of wearing black clothes, of yak hair while plunging downwards, of being trapped in wicker basket or snare. I mean, these are just so specific, these dreams, of being bound with iron chains, or of copulating repeatedly with a black figure or animal. These are also signs which are indicative of death. So these are very interesting dreams. And again, I don't know if anybody studied this type of symbolism in dreams and if it has any relationship to death. But yeah, I thought it just kind of stood out to me. So I don't know what to make of it. I just thought I'd share it. It did well. Okay, it does feel a little bizarre because it's just so overly specific. But yeah, so I don't really know what to make of it. Okay, now here are signs of near death. If one's gums grow grimy and black, this is called the gathering of the personal demons of the elements, and this indicates that one may die after 9 days. Again, more of these very specific timelines for death. If the nostrils sag inwards and deflate, this is called the blockage of the passageway of the vital breath, and it indicates that one may die after 9 days. Okay. So, like I said, I think these sections have some general thoughts about these specific like things that go change in the body when you are getting close to death, which is interesting. But I don't know how much these specific predictions have been verified. I think the biggest takeaway or the most interesting takeaway from all these sections that I showed today is, let me actually go back here, is kind of this idea, right, that we're being led astray by past actions, and that liberation seems to be achieved via recognition, which has some overlaps with what David Icke has said and what some other folks have said. The thing is, though, is that David Icke, I know, dismisses this whole idea of karma. So I wonder what his take is on in regards to a lot of this type of language in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or maybe he has a different interpretation of the way karma is described here versus elsewhere. Because again, it doesn't sound like this book is advocating for you to atone for sins via multiple lives and like keep improving, kind of like the new age spiritualism idea. It doesn't feel like it's saying that. It just seems more of a recognition, maybe some remorse, but then through that recognition, remorse, awareness, you can be liberated, and that's that. So feels like a different version of how karma is usually positioned. Well, anyways, that's all I got for you guys in this section. I'm going to keep reading this book. Hopefully it's a it's a long book, but hopefully I'll get through it in the next few days, and we can finish this whole section out, analyzing and discussing the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But we haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. The really good stuff. The whole reason why I wanted to read this book is what I believe is coming up soon in the text, the process and preparation for death, and what are the things you should do once you die, and what are the things you should expect to see, and all that stuff. So that's going to be really interesting. All right, guys, that's all I got for you guys in this one. And by the way, shout out to everybody who joined me on the live stream. We're going to do another one next week. Probably, I'm thinking at the same time, if that works with everybody, but I'm going to put out another survey this week. I might even do another one earlier because it was so much fun and we had a lot of engagement, and people just really showed up, and yeah, it was fantastic. So may do 2 this week. We shall see. But that's all I got for you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.